Well, hello everyone. This is Fadi. Thank you so much for joining us in another live stream. With me here, our dear brother, and our honor really to have him here in studio, David Wood. David, welcome back, brother. Thank you so much for making time for us.
How's it going? How's it going?
It's wonderful, my brother. Thank you so much. So today's topic, as we've announced it already for everyone, has to do with this censorship that is taking place in social media. And of course, when we talk about this, brother, you are no stranger to that. In fact, today, I'm hoping that you can share your personal experiences, and I'll interject a few of mine, but I don't think mine can mount near to what you've experienced already. And maybe from the experience of others, like Prager, you, for instance, is one example that comes to mind. So with that said, I want to welcome everyone. Thank you so much for waiting for us. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you for the moderators, as usual, for taking care of the comments. And we will keep track of that. So I'll turn it over to you, David, and tell me, start from wherever you feel like starting. When did you encounter such censorship or severe censorship in terms of your ministry?
Well, pretty much all along from the major social media platforms, from Facebook, from Twitter, and from YouTube as well. Now, for a while, YouTube was kind of the best. In other words, Facebook and Twitter were much quicker to block content that hurts someone's feelings, or that doesn't violate the policies in any way, but you have some person blocking your content anyway. And for a long time, YouTube was the best. It might still be the best, but all of these major platforms are kind of going in the same direction. At first, these are all businesses. So at first, in order to get as many users of their platform as possible, they have to be kind of inviting to everyone, right? Everyone is welcome here. Everyone is maybe not like racists or people who are advocating violence or something like that. But other than that, we don't care what your religious view is. We don't care what your political views are. We just want everyone here to get involved in the discussion. And so at first they just invite everyone on. But over a period of a few years, people kind of get addicted to the platforms, or the platforms simply become their main avenue for interacting with other people. So people get to the point where, back in the day, you used to call your relatives and have a conversation with them, or go for a visit. Now the main way people communicate with lots of their relatives, lots of their friends, is on Facebook. And so that has become the default method for lots of people, especially, relatives who don't live close by, right? Relatives who've moved to different states and so on. The main way people communicate with their friends and relatives that aren't in their area anymore is on a platform like Facebook. And so people come to use it over time. But once people are sort of glued to Facebook, once that's how they communicate with other people, then Facebook can start pushing them in a certain direction by blocking things that they say. And lots of people go along with it. Lots of people go along with it because, well, gosh, I can't get blocked by Facebook. That's how I communicate with my mom and my dad, my cousins and my brother and my sister and stuff. I communicate with everyone using this platform. So if they say I can't say X, Y, or Z, then I just have to avoid saying those things. And so all of the platforms follow the same pattern. It's first invite everyone, then get everyone to use the platform so much that it becomes their main avenue for communication, and then start controlling what they're allowed to say and what they're allowed to think. And that should be disturbing. And we could talk a bit about the law here, because a lot of people misunderstand the law. You want to go into that a little bit?
Absolutely.
And by the way, anytime you see any comments that you want to jump in with or something like that, feel free to cut me off at any point, because we got plenty of stuff we can address here. But a lot of people, and I used to think this, and I used to say this in my videos. I used to say, Twitter's a company. YouTube's a company. Facebook is a company. They can make whatever rules they want for their company, and they can, you know, if they want to say, hey, you can't say Jesus is Lord on your platform, well, they're allowed to do that. And it turns out that I was wrong for thinking that these companies can kind of do whatever they want, because they are given a special status. These companies are all given a special status by the U.S. government that protects them from being sued. So here's the main issue when it comes down to it's Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. But basically, back in the 1990s, when you had internet forums emerging, so it was new in the 1990s. All of a sudden, these internet forums were emerging, and the question arose: can you sue these companies if they're hosting content that is, let's say, contains false claims about a person, right? So, just to give examples here, if the National Enquirer posts false, misleading, horrible, malicious claims about someone, that someone can sue the National Enquirer, and the National Enquirer can be ordered by courts to pay them millions of dollars for the damage that's been done. Now, what if an emerging platform, and in the 1990s, it was platforms like CompuServe and Prodigy, but what happens when these platforms, which allow other people to post content, what happened if I'm a user of CompuServe? I don't control CompuServe, but what happens if I'm a user of CompuServe and I post content that is maliciously false about someone else? The question that came up for the courts was, is CompuServe responsible for that content? Can CompuServe be sued the way the National Enquirer can be sued? If the National Enquirer has content in its tabloid that's false and illegal, there's no question the National Enquirer can be sued if they post false information. The New York Times can be sued if it posts false, malicious content. What happens if Prodigy or CompuServe has material on its site because people are posting it there? Well, the courts, I mean, the Congress had to deal with this, right? And what do? If the platforms can be sued for anything that's posted on their site, then there aren't going to be any platforms, because that means they would have to moderate every single thing that's posted on there, and you can't have a discussion, right? If everything you're going to post on a discussion platform has to first be read by censors, and they decide whether that material can be on their site, well, you can't even have a discussion on there anymore, right? So the U.S. government stepped in there and said, all right, we're going to have a distinction here. We're going to have a distinction between a platform and a publisher. A publisher is someone who is deciding what content is on their site. A platform is where it's like a kind of a forum where other people post content. And what they put in Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act was that the platform, the company, cannot be held responsible for material that's posted on there. There are limited exceptions, like they're responsible for taking down copyrighted material or something like that that's posted by someone else. But basically, if I post something on Prodigy or CompuServe, if I post something that's false, then CompuServe can't be held responsible for what I post on the site. And that was meant to protect the sites so that there could be sites. Again, if the sites could be sued for anything that anyone else posts on them, they're not going to exist. No one's going to, they would be sued into oblivion if every false claim on there, they could be sued over. So the government protected them by saying, all right, we're going to make this US law that you can't be sued for what someone else posts on your site. Now, so the obvious problem that arose there was, well, if publishers are people who decide what content is on their site and platforms don't decide what content is on their site, what happens if a platform like Prodigy or CompuServe, what happens if they decide to ban some content, right? What happens if they decide to ban someone's content because the person is creepy or he's advocating, child pornography or something like that? Not even posting it, he's just saying it's a good thing, right? You can't post it, but what happens if someone's just advocating it, right? what happens if there's someone like that on your platform and you want to get rid of him? Well, it seems like they should be able to get rid of people like that. It seems like they should be able to kick people like that off their platform. But if the platforms are then deciding which content goes on their platform, then it seems like they're publishers and not platforms, right? In other words, if they say we're just a platform, we don't decide what's on here, and the government says, okay, as long as you're a platform, you're not responsible. But then they want to turn around and say, well, we can ban content. We can kick people off our platform. Then it sounds like you're a publisher and you're not protected. So what's going to arise here? Well, that's why the government also put in Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act that these platforms can ban content and ban users that they regard as dangerous and harmful. And they were mainly the main concern here was children. If you have children using Prodigy and you have total creeps using Prodigy as well, how do you protect the children from creepy people? And so the main concern here was children running into content that people might not want children seeing. So they included in Section 230 that these platforms can ban people and ban content that is harmful, that could be harmful, if they're doing so in good faith, right? Meaning they're doing it because they genuinely regard the content as harmful. They recognize that it's harmful, and so they're banning it in good faith. All right, so that's basically the situation. The U.S. government, in order to protect these platforms so that platforms can emerge, because the U.S. back then, the U.S. wanted these are companies, right? These are companies. They have jobs. They make revenue. You want these companies to get big. You want the internet to become big. It adds another dimension to the world economy and so on. So they wanted this to happen, and so they put these protections in there. One, the platform can't be held responsible for material that people are putting on there. But two, the platform can, in good faith, block or ban certain content or certain users if it's done in good faith. Now, so those are the laws. You fast forward until today, these platforms are banning content left and right, and they're hiding behind the law that they can't be held responsible, and they're allowed to ban content in good faith. But it's clear that they're not banning content in good faith, right? They are protecting certain ideologies from criticism. Right. They are banning and blocking people based on their political views or even certain religious claims, and they're doing this with they have immunity because of the law. And the problem is that wasn't the intent of the law. The intent of the law was not to let these tech giants emerge and then start to control people's speech and control people's thinking and tell people what they can and cannot say. So anyway, here's the point. The people who are saying, well, hey, these are just businesses, they're companies, they're allowed to ban any content they want. They don't have to, they can make whatever rules they want. That's actually false. That's actually a false claim. If they're a platform, they're only supposed to be able to ban certain kinds of dangerous content in good faith, but they're using that to control people's political views and religious views and everything else. And so that's sort of the situation that we're in right now. You have various political leaders and various organizations calling for some new clarifications on the law, right? And so whether it's the executive order recently put out by Donald Trump, or you have certain senators who are calling for a review, they're basically asking for clarification of that good faith clause that's already in the law. What does it mean that these companies have to be acting in good faith? Because whatever it means, you have billions of people using these platforms as their main source of communication, and as a lot of their main source of how they get their daily news and how they interpret world events and so on. So these companies have massive power over what people think and are able to say. If these companies are biased and pushing people in a certain political direction or religious direction, then it seems like they're not simply platforms anymore. They're crossing over into being publishers, right? In other words, if suppose I say, hey, I'm a platform here. I'm a platform, so I allow anyone to post anything they want on my platform so that I have the protection of the US government and I can't be sued. But then suppose I say, all right, I'm going to block anyone who doesn't agree with me. And I regard anyone who doesn't agree with everything I say as, I regard that as harmful if anyone doesn't agree with anything I say. Then I block all kinds of people and I only allow on my platform things that agree with me completely. Well, it's really, really clear that I'm not a platform. I'm a publisher. I'm deciding what content goes on my site. And so you don't have these platforms going to that extent. They don't block everything that they disagree with, but they've been veering in that direction more and more over the years, banning more and more content that they don't, that their trust and safety teams don't approve of. And so it's getting to where it's out of hand. People, these trust and safety team people who they go to college. Their minds are pumped full of the idea that anything they disagree with is hate speech, and then they graduate and they get jobs at YouTube and Google and Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, where they get to control other people's speech. And these people have been trained for years to think that anything they disagree with is hate speech and they should call it racist hate speech and so on. And then they get control over what billions of people say. These guys should not be controlling what people say in that way. And so it's kind of the situation we're in right now, but it's creepy.
It is creepy. And, I'm kind of wondering, really, why is the law that vague? I mean, it could be made very simple. If it is a matter of child issues, okay, that's the language. And we support that, of course. If there is anything that is promoting violence, literally, you're talking about violence, wage war, do a terrorist act, go and kill. Of course, we are in support of that. But David, what we're noticing is that they're coming after us now, you, me, Sam Shamoun, and the likes, when we are really, all we're doing is we're presenting facts. We're presenting them from Islamic sources, might I add. You are giving quotations. You're giving people references. So tell us about your experience. I mean, you mentioned that you've had really bad run-ins into all of them, Facebook, YouTube lately, and of course Twitter. Share with us, the things that happen with you, and I'll share about my own experience.
Yeah, so we can kind of go through them one by one. But Facebook. So Facebook, for years of using Facebook, I had no problem because they were in the stage of we need to get everyone hooked on our platform and addicted to our platform. And so for years, had no problem posting content on Facebook. Then all of a sudden, it just shifted, and then I was getting banned. Basically, every time I would get unbanned, I would get banned again. And it would be for stuff that I'd said three or 4 years earlier, right? They're going back through my content. And what was crazy was the insanity of the things I was getting banned for. And they would ban you. You're banned for 7 days, or you're banned for 30 days or whatever. But what was really bad was just the insanity of the things I was getting banned for. Now, some of it I could see by some stretch of the imagination, if they're not consistent with it. But if they were consistent, I could see a rule, for instance, against posting violent threats. And what I mean there is sometimes a certain unnamed religious ideology, adherents of that ideology would send me comments saying, we're going to kill you, or we're going to kill your mom, or we're going to kill your children, or something like that. I would just screenshot that and say, hey, look, I just got another death threat. I would post that on Facebook. For years, There was no problem. All of a sudden, Facebook started going back through all of my messages and blocking that content as hate speech. Right? So notice, it's hate speech for me to say this guy just threatened me. Right? Now, what's insane the reason I say that's insane is I could imagine a platform saying, okay, you can't post threats, even if they're from someone else. We don't want that kind of content on there. But if a Muslim were saying, hey, this person threatened me, they would never in a million years block that. If a person were to say, hey, this racist just threatened me with death, and here's a screenshot of it, that content would be fine. But since it was a Muslim threatening me with death, threatening to kill me, Facebook was saying, you cannot post that. Now, notice that it's completely biased. It depends on the identity of the person you're saying is threatening you. Which, as far as I can tell, means Muslims can threaten me all they want, but if anyone threatens them, you can they can share that. Muslims can share that. But if a Muslim threatens anyone else, you have to be silent about it. And I find that massively, massively disturbing. So anyway, I could understand if Facebook wanted to say no posting death threats that people send you, and they actually applied it consistently so that no one could share when they've been threatened. Okay, maybe you don't want any content like that. The point is, they never apply these rules fairly. It's always certain groups that get protected and other groups that aren't. And so you had things like that, but some of them were completely insane. Like, you can't even imagine why they would block it. So for instance, there's a famous picture from the era of Nazi Germany where Nazis ordered a bunch of workers to salute Hitler, and one dude in the middle of the crowd refused to salute. He sat there with his arms crossed, right? And so it's a famous picture that one guy in the entire crowd refused to salute. So I posted a picture with a circle around that guy.
And I remember
that one guy refusing to salute with an arrow pointing to him. And all it said was, be this guy. Be the guy that would refuse to salute Hitler, even if you're in an environment where everyone is saluting Hitler, and even if it could get you in a lot of trouble. Just be the sort of guy who would never submit to that sort of thing. Facebook blocked that as hate speech, right? Me saying, be the sort of person who would not salute Hitler is hate speech. And so you're given these opportunities to appeal, and I of course appeal. What are you talking about? Hate speech. I'm saying don't be someone that would salute Hitler. What is your problem? Confirmed as hate speech, right? The appeal is denied. And so it was things like that where I'm like, my goodness. So I got off the platform, right? I'm like, I can't deal with this, right? Now, just to clarify, my position, you can have different positions, but a lot of people have the position of, well, if this platform interferes with me, then I'm going to go find another platform. No, that's not really my position. My position is use the platforms until the wheels break off, or use them as long as they're useful. Because think about it, one of the best ways to expose Facebook and to call Facebook to account is to use Facebook to call Facebook to account, right? So I don't tell people, hey, get off these platforms. I got off Facebook because if they were basically banning me every time I would post anything, it's just useless. It's a useless platform to me. I can't do anything. So I got fed up with that and got off there. And then Twitter started getting worse, mainly after the mosque attacks in New Zealand. They started banning everyone there. So after that, I posted a video condemning the mosque attacks, saying I said people who turn to violence instead of trying to deal with the ideology. I said you're idiots, called them losers. Posted that in the video, and Twitter banned my video and said this is hate speech. And so I sent them. I appealed. I sent them my appeal, and I said, how is it hate speech to condemn this attack? How is this hate speech to condemn this violent attack? And I got the response to my appeal, and it says, your appeal is rejected because your video is video of the attacks. You're not allowed to post footage of the attacks. Now, this is insane because not only have I never posted 1 second of video footage of those attacks, I've never watched 1 second of video footage of those attacks. So I've never watched the footage. I've never posted the footage. But they block the video as hate speech, and then when they defend why they blocked it as hate speech, they say my video is video of the attacks, which is completely idiotic nonsense. So I sent them multiple messages saying this is complete nonsense. But I'm actually not allowed on Twitter. I can't in order to go onto my Twitter account, I have to first agree to delete that content, and I refuse. People can't even see that content. I have to manually delete the content. They can't see it, but it's still technically on Twitter. And so I'm responsible for removing the video footage of this attack. I refuse to do it because it's completely false. But that's when you start getting the idea that what's really going on. See, the person who works on the trust and safety team at Twitter or Facebook, they can't say, hey, we're blocking you because you're critical of Islam and we don't like that. Right? It would be too obvious. It would be too obvious that they're a publisher and that they're biased and that they're not acting in good faith. So what they do is they just call anything they don't like hate speech, and they can say whatever they want. They can say whatever they want about it, right? Notice I can make if they don't like me, I can make a video saying, man, I really love, grilled cheese sandwiches. And they could say, oh, that's hate speech. And I say, what are you talking about? It's not hate speech. What in there is hate speech? And they say, nope, it's hate speech. You posted a video saying kill all people. I said, what are you talking about? Yep, it's right there. No, I said, I like grilled cheese sandwiches. What are you talking about? They can say whatever you want because they're the judge, juries, and executioners of our speech. And that's disturbing. So we can talk about YouTube, but that's my experience with Facebook and Twitter, and why I don't post on either of those platforms anymore. When you were talking about experiences you have, were you talking about Facebook and Twitter, or were you talking about YouTube?
I was talking about Facebook first. I mean, my YouTube experience is starting to show now that there is some spotlight being put on me as well. And I'm at least I'm not going to be oblivious to what might happen in the future. But Facebook is primarily the source of information that I like to use a lot. The platform, I should say, for my information, for my challenges. And what I notice is that initially you'll get a lot of Muslims coming in, and obviously I am welcoming them because that's exactly the point. I am doing things for them to think about it. And then you begin to notice that Facebook is sending you notifications. This, comment was inappropriate, does not meet our community standards. And you start looking at it and say, what is inappropriate about it? I mean, I'm just asking questions. And then all of a sudden, you start getting block notifications. You get blocked, of course, for, the 24 hours. You get the 3 days. Then all of a sudden, it's almost like they have a checklist they're going through. 7 days immediately after, then it was 30 days. And I started to notice that what is going on is that, many of these Muslims come in and their job is reporting. That's all they do, and they keep reporting, and the I call it the artificial unintelligent of Facebook responds to it and thinks that, oh, Al-Fadi is doing bad stuff. So they automatically think you think, even if you appeal it, they don't care. They don't listen to you. They don't pay attention to you whatsoever. So I don't want to reveal all my cards here publicly, but I do have strategies now and teams working with me on how we can get around this. But one time it was like you. I reposted someone's comment to me, and guess what? I received a block for daring to say that this person did that. Before we jump into YouTube, which is the most interesting out of both, all of them, I have a question right here. And thank you, by the way, Psalm 25, for your super chat. Lord bless you. Here is a question right here in front of you, David. They're saying, do you think, they're really intent on manipulating, or do you believe that this can end up manipulating thoughts, opinions, especially with the young generations?
Well, I mean, as things are right now, there's no question of what kind of power these people have. If you like, I mean, just take the news companies, right? You've got Fox News, which leans conservative, and you've got MSNBC, which leans left, and so on. So you have these different companies, but guess what? You're the American viewer. You can decide, right? You can decide which one you want to listen to, and those companies can decide what content they're putting on there. But those are publishers, right? Those are publishers. If Fox News or MSNBC decides what content's on there, then that's up to them. And if they get something wrong, they can be sued. But you have, the sort of speech kingpins here, right? You have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube as the big companies. And these companies have kind of monopolies. You have other platforms like BitChute and so on like that. They just don't have anywhere near the reach. And so once these virtual monopolies start deciding, hey, you can't criticize Islam on this platform. Well, think about what that does, right? If you can't criticize Islam, but you can criticize Christianity and you can criticize atheism, then you have all these criticisms of atheism and Christianity up there, but no criticisms of Islam. Well, guess what? That's pushing people in, that's pushing people in the direction of Islam over time.
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
young people, they're going into this, and they can see criticisms of Christianity, they can see criticisms of atheism, they can see criticisms of Hinduism, they can see all these criticisms, but they just don't encounter criticisms of Islam. Now, we're not there yet to where there are no criticisms of Islam. There are all kinds of criticisms. We criticize Islam all the time. The point is, that's the direction things are heading. Right. So for years ago, you were allowed to post all kinds of criticisms of Islam, and you were allowed to share death threats and all these things. All of a sudden, they start blocking that. So notice, if a Christian threatens you with death, you can post that. If an atheist threatens you with death, you can post that. Suddenly, Facebook decides that if a Muslim threatens to kill you, you are not allowed to share that. You have to keep quiet. And so, you can see the direction things are heading. If a jihadi slaughters a bunch of people, and you say, hey, that was done in the name of Islam because Muhammad, taught that, you can see we're getting to a point where, nope, you can't say that because you mentioned that Muslims did it. Well, what if Christians or atheists or someone else had done it? Yeah, you can post that. So this is massively biased. And it would be one thing. It would be one thing if these companies were publishers, right? It would be one thing if they acknowledged that they are publishers who are deciding what content goes on there, in which case they'd be more like, CNN or something like that, where you understand what their positions are. And if they get something wrong, they can be sued for it. It would be one thing if they acknowledge themselves as publishers, but they claim to be platforms that are simply there for other people to post content, and yet they are clearly and indisputably publishers, right? So they're living, these companies are living a dual life. On the one hand, before the government, they're saying, we're just platforms, man. We're just here for other people to decide what to post.
We're a public square, basically.
Yeah. Whereas for us, they're saying, no, we're deciding you can't say that, you can't say that, you can't say that, you can't say that. Oh, we like you, you can say that. Oh, we don't like you, you can't say that. And that's basically what they're doing. But notice that they have to call this stuff hate speech, even if it's completely innocuous. Even if you're condemning violence or something like that, they just call it hate speech. Why? Because that way, when they go to the government and the government says, hey, why are you blocking all this content? They're saying, no, we just block hate speech. We're allowed to block hate speech, right? Government, don't you agree that we're allowed to block hate speech? Government, of course you can block hate speech. See, that's all we're doing. We're blocking hate speech. Completely biased. Should be very disturbing to everyone. And here, this is something that should be disturbing to everyone, whatever your political position, whether you're conservative, liberal, whether you're Christian, Muslim, atheist, whatever you are, you should be totally creeped out. What I find is that people who benefit from this, people who benefit from the bias, don't seem to complain much about it. Whereas you should not want these companies to get to a point where people can only say what they want said, even if you just have completely selfish motivations. Hey, this is helping my ideology be protected right now. Even if that's your goal, you don't want these companies getting that much power, because, well, what happens 5 years from now when they decide that they don't like you? And then you have no recourse. You can't even respond because you're not allowed to speak anywhere on the internet. So creepy stuff.
It seems that's the direction that is taken. And I want to share really from a real life experience, not social media, but the idea that you're being brainwashed is real, folks. Mm-hmm. By the way, if you're just joining us, thank you so much. With me here, Dr. David Wood. We're talking about the censorship by social media. And of course, no better than David Wood himself to talk about his most recent experience with YouTube, which we will touch on that. He gave a preview of what the law says and how these platforms, what I mean by that, the social media platforms, unfortunately, try to get around the language, and they present themselves in one way as public square and another way as publishers. And so you don't know really which side they are on. I grew up believing in one thing only. Islam is the only way, and everything else is false. Christianity is corrupt, and the list went on and on and on. By the time I made it to the States and I start to meet born-again Christians, my mind would tell me one thing, what my ear is hearing is totally another. So it took me a while to finally begin to realize that I wasn't really told the truth about at least what is the gospel message. What did Jesus say? Forget about the fact whether you want to follow him or not, but at least sharing the information and let me decide to whether I like it or not. And that's exactly what I'm seeing, David. And I agree with you that the young generation is being brainwashed, sometimes intimidated because they like just to communicate with mom and dad and cousins and friends. So, hey, I don't want to lose this platform. Okay, they don't want me to say these words. Fine, I won't say them. And on the other hand, you're seeing, voices out there, even PragerU. I mean, he is already involved in a lawsuit as we speak against these, platforms for the same reason you mentioned. Are they a public square or are they a publisher? And PragerU, if anyone would watch him, they're very short video, very informative, by the way. And they don't present a specific agenda. They're just sharing facts. They're sharing facts. And unfortunately, you're not allowed to do something like this. Let's jump on the topic of YouTube. David, Lord bless you, brother. We love you, and you have an amazing channel, and we pray and that this will continue because you have a lot of wonderful, teachings, and many people love the stuff that you present, love the humor, love the style that you presented, and what I like about you, you're always presenting it from a factual standpoint. It's not like based on your feeling. It's not like you have an agenda and you don't like this guy or this, topic. It's always presented based on facts. This verse said this hadith said that, look the comment, what I received, and so on and so forth. Tell us about what have you noticed since you started in YouTube and anything later on that became noticeable to you by way of censorship.
Yeah. So the first thing I really noticed. So let me be clear here. The first video I ever had banned by YouTube, I had actually broken the rules. I didn't know the rules. And so I don't complain about that. They were entirely justified. I took my penalty, which was that I had a strike for a little while. And because it was clear that I broke a rule, which is actually a good rule. And just so everyone knows, a Muslim had posted video footage of a man in a mosque who would, not sure quite how to, sexually fondle boys in the mosque during prayer, right? So the boys are bowed down in prayer. They're doing their salah. And there was a guy in the mosque who was sort of sitting behind the kids, and he would start feeling on them, right? On their backsides and so on. So it was actually a Muslim who recorded this and posted the footage to expose this person, right? To shame this person and to let the mosque know, guys, you need to get this guy out of here, get him away from kids, right? So that footage was sent to me and I posted it, right? Well, I wasn't aware of the rule that you can't post footage like that, right? These are actually young people. They're not naked. They're not naked or anything. It's not pornography, but the guy's clearly reaching up and grabbing the backsides of children, right? So I didn't know that's a rule. As soon as they sent me the rule, I was like, oh, yeah, that makes perfect sense. What the heck? You got people. We're trying to expose this stuff and saying, hey, you need to stop this stuff wherever it is, right? If it's in a church, it's in a mosque. Expose this stuff. Shame these people. Let other people in other mosques or whatever that need to let them know that you need to watch out for predators like this who are coming into your places, right? So we you want to expose that stuff, but on the same time, there's a kid in this video and he's being sexually fondled. You can't have that on. You can't be posting that stuff. So I understood that completely, had no problems with that. Then the next banned video was actually disturbing. The video was from the 2010 Arabic International Festival in Dearborn, where Nabil was answering some questions of some Muslims who had gathered around him. So Nabil's walking around, he's got a Christian shirt on, a bunch of like 15-year-old Muslim kids gather around him, start asking him questions. Nabil's having an awesome time. He's praising them, saying, hey, these are great questions. Everyone's having a good time. Police show up, throw us all in jail. And so that was 2010. Actually, the video was the 2009 video. The year before that, there was a Muslim booth, and it said, got questions, we got answers. And the first day we went there, Nabil just took the pamphlets of the Muslims who were handing out pamphlets. And then he went back and he read all those pamphlets. And then we went back to the festival the next day, and Nabil had some questions because they were saying things that were just absolutely false in their pamphlets. So we went up to them, and matter of fact, I was just sort of in the tent looking around, and it was Mary Jo Sharp. It was Mary Jo Sharp who was filming Nabil. And the guy at the Muslim table said she can tape it, said she can record this as Nabil's asking questions. And so Nabil's asking questions, Mary Jo Sharp is recording, and all of a sudden security swarms around and grabs Mary Jo's arm, forces her arm down, makes her turn off the camera, and so on. So we went to police and we asked police, hey, are we allowed to record? I mean, there are people there saying we can record. We want to record. They want to record. They've got a booth saying, if you got questions, we got answers. What's going on? And police said these security guards have no authority to make you stop recording someone. Of course you're allowed to record. So we go back there. Anyway, long story short, we got mobbed by security. Gathered around us. They were kicking Nabil's legs. They were slapping our hands. It wasn't major. They didn't hold us on the ground and curb stomp us or anything. But they were they had clearly assaulted us. So we had all that recorded. We had it recorded that they sort of mobbed us. And so we made a video of that called Sharia in the US, which was just this video footage of these guys mobbing us for asking questions at a booth that said, got questions, we got answers. So we posted that. It was up for probably a year. It had over 2 million views. And that's the video footage. We went and sat through the unedited video footage. So it's much longer, but we went to the Dearborn Police Department. Me and Mary Jo Sharp walked in there, played the unedited video footage, the full footage, which again was much longer, for a detective there. And he said there are three people in this video that I can arrest for assault because they assaulted you. And we said, we don't want anyone arrested. We just want them to understand not to do that to us again, that you cannot walk up to Christians and do that. That if someone's recording a conversation, you can't walk up and smack their camera or kick them. You want them to, they need to understand that. They don't get it. So he said, no problem. I'll make sure they understand this and so on. Anyway, that video was up for, I think, over a year. It had over 2 million views. All of a sudden, YouTube blocks that video. And they said, you can't have this video on here. We had to take it down. And so I said, why? And they said, for violating our rules on doxing, right? So doxing, that's where you give people's personal information, home addresses and stuff like that. And so I responded, I said, where? Apart from me and Nabil, no one is named in this entire thing where you can't. So
and I watched the video, by the way, and I agree with you. There was no name in name.
Yeah. So me and Nabil are the only people who are named at all in the video. There's no home addresses given. There's no personal details. And you're on a public street. There's no right to privacy on a public street. So what are you talking about? And I got the message back. Nope, sorry, after review, yes, it's clear you violated our rule against publishing people's personal information. Right? So that was the first sort of hint to me. Wait a minute. Are they just saying that because they want to take the video down and they're not simply allowed to take any video down that they don't like? So they have to say it violated a rule. But even though my video didn't violate any rule, they're going to say it violated a rule and they can just lie. So that was back then. That was peculiar. There was nothing I could do about it. There was nothing I could do about it. Fast forward, years later, they banned my videos left and right, all over complete nonsense. I had a debate. Me and Robert Spencer had a 2-on-2 debate with two Muslims on the existence of Muhammad. That got banned for hate speech. It's a debate. It's a debate. And we're talking about the existence of Muhammad.
Exactly. There's no hate involved. I watched that too. I watched that debate. I remember it.
No one's saying kill this group or kill that group or we hate that. There's nothing like that in there. They banned that as hate speech. Another video that got blocked as hate speech was it was a video on honor killings, and the video was me interviewing a young man who knew a girl who'd been killed by her father, and he's basically sharing his personal experiences of she was terrified of this dude and so on because he's always coming after her and stuff, and finally he kills her and stuff like. Anyway, we tell the story. YouTube banned that as hate speech. So it's hate speech to report on honor killings or to condemn honor killings. Fast forward to my most recent banning. And the entire video was me giving an overview of the Open Doors 2020 World Watch List, where they talk about some trends in persecution around the world, where they basically Open Doors, each year they post their World Watch List. And what they do is they tell you how persecution has changed since last year. Are reports of church burnings up in a certain area, and they'll tell people about that so that people stay informed on what's going on in the world. Anyway, all I did was read through the overview of the World Watch List. YouTube banned it as hate speech. I appealed it. They upheld the hate speech ban. They accidentally gave me another appeal. I appealed it again. So 3 independent YouTube reviewers all claimed that this video where I just report Christian persecution is hate speech. And it would be one thing if YouTube made a rule saying no talk about persecuted groups on YouTube. That would be one thing. But when it's if you talk about persecution of Christians, if you mention who's persecuting them, you can't do that. Well, what if the reverse were true? What if Christians were persecuting Muslims? Would that be allowed on YouTube? Of course, that would be allowed on YouTube. Of course, that would be allowed on YouTube. And so the bottom line is these companies are not acting in good faith, but the law that protects them requires that they're only blocking content in good faith. And it's clear that they're not. They're becoming increasingly biased. They're becoming increasingly one-sided, and you never get things heading in a reverse direction, right? Each year they get more biased, more one-sided, like they're slowly cooking us, right? They can't just come out in 2010 and say, hey, here's our platform, and by the way, we're going to crush everyone who disagrees with us. They can't come right out and say that. They have to do it step by step, little bit by little bit, and increase it as time goes on, because people can get used to that. But man, this is a sick world. If you can no longer say, hey, this church just got burned down by jihadis in this country, if you can't say that without getting banned, then the internet is becoming a very dangerous place.
Absolutely. And today I was watching a show about journalism, and in the past, you would get fired as a I should say as a journalist, if you are being biased, if you're not sharing the truth. Today, you will be fired if you're being, honest and sharing the truth, because you need to go with the mainstream, which is really a dangerous trend. And I agree with you. I mean, this is just the beginning, the tip of the iceberg. If they're doing it now, imagine what they're going to do next year or the year after. And I want to just share my 2 quick experiences with YouTube that got my attention. About maybe 6 months ago, I noticed that someone literally opened a YouTube channel named after my YouTube channel and used my logo. Now, that was puzzling to me at the beginning. I felt like, how did even YouTube allow this in the first place? But I said, no problem. They have policies. Sure enough, they have policies for impersonation. I filled out the form, sent it to them. To my surprise, the answer was, we do not see any violation. I said, surely I did not fill the right one. I tried it again. And I tried a couple of other examples. And I even asked people to report it. And David, they will not budge. They keep saying they do not see any violation. I ended up basically finding an attorney who deals with copyrights, and he reached out to them the first time, and they ignored him until he threatened a lawsuit. Only then that they got back and say, oh, yeah, we see the violation. And it's kind of interesting that how they put you through these exercises, and they hope that you're going to ignore it and just live with it. And, I know of people that, by the way, lost revenues because people impersonated them and they can't do anything about it. Recently I did a show about jihad, but I called the title, Jesus is the Way. Notice I started with Jesus is the Way. They took it down and they said that basically it's against our policies. So I appealed it. And I says, are you telling me it's okay to allow these youngsters to believe in jihad? And when I come in and try to tell them that there is a different way, that's a no-no? I mean, it seems to me that I don't know who reviews these things for them, if any, and why they make these awkward decisions. With that in mind, David, I mean, are you noticing sometimes that things get demonetized, that number of subscribers drop every now and then? I mean, are you noticing things like this? I mean, I hear it a lot, and I've started to notice things myself too.
Well, fortunately, my channel's so awesome. I don't see any drops in subscribers. But no, I've had tons of complaints that people just get randomly unsubscribed from my channel. I see probably 10 to 20 of those every single day. People saying, "Hey, I just came on this video. Why am I unsubscribed?" So that's pretty regular. Fortunately, if they weren't complaining, I wouldn't notice it, because I get a bunch of people subscribing each day. So if I'm losing 10 or 20 a day that are just being randomly unsubscribed, then, I wouldn't notice that, except they're actually telling me. But I mean, think about that. How are 10 to 20 people randomly getting unsubscribed from a channel every day? On the issue of monetization, I don't complain a lot about the monetization. I still have some videos monetized. They're mostly videos that before the new policies, before more recent policies came into effect, where they don't go back and review all those videos. They just leave them monetized. And some videos, if I'm on if I'm just on certain Christian topics, like if I say, Jesus rose from the dead or something like that, sometimes those will stay monetized. But what's interesting here is the reason given, because I still monetize them. There's no way for me to make any substantial amount of revenue from advertisements now, because they block so many of my videos. I do it more for the sake of experimentation, to see what their views are. So now if I post anything, it could be responding to a simple Muslim argument or something like that. I can say, hey, Muslims claim that Muhammad is mentioned here, but he's actually not, and here's why. Seems like that should be something that, it's not. I'm not calling for killing or anything like that. I'm responding to one of their arguments, but that will be demonetized instantly. And if I appeal it, which I do, just so that they'll actually try and give me a reason, when I do, it's listed as hateful content. And when they list it as hateful content, they say, this is content that could hurt the feelings of someone in a protected group. So that's the phrase, protected group, right? This could hurt the feelings of someone in a protected group. So notice, if you're an atheist, you can blast Christianity. Christians aren't a protected group. So you can actually monetize that video. You can actually monetize that video of you criticizing Christianity. If you're a Christian and you're criticizing atheism, you can monetize that. There's no problem, because atheists aren't a protected group. But if you're a Christian or an atheist and you monetize a video that is questioning or criticizing Islam in any way, if they see it, they demonetize it. And they say, nope, this is something that could hurt the feelings of a protected group. But notice because here's the thing. As far as, the platform and publisher distinction, I think that's what's important. I don't think YouTube is under any obligation whatsoever to give me or you ad revenue. So if in other words, right, if they demonetize me, I'm not gonna be crazy, not because of the ad revenue, but because, it's more evidence of their bias. And I just don't like that. But, people support me on Patreon and stuff like that. So, but here's the issue. Notice what they're saying, right? Notice what they're saying. If they're saying a Christian who's criticizing atheism can get ad revenue, or an atheist criticizing Christianity can make ad revenue, a Muslim criticizing atheism can make ad revenue, a Muslim criticizing atheism can make ad revenue, but a Christian or an atheist criticizing Islam cannot have ad revenue. The policy is massively biased. What they are saying, in effect, is if you're a Muslim and you want to make money criticizing atheism, we will help fund you. We'll help pay for what you're doing. If you're a Christian or an atheist and you're criticizing Islam, we will not help fund you. So notice it's like another level of bias here, right? Because for most people, ad revenue on YouTube is not going to be a huge thing. It's certainly not for people like me. But there are people who are so effective that if all their videos were monetized, they could be fully funded just by YouTube. And what YouTube is saying is, if you're really, really good at criticizing atheism, we will fund we will fund all of your work. We will pay for you to do that. If you want to criticize Christianity, and you're really good at it so that tons of people watch your videos, we will actually fund your attacks on Christianity. But if you're criticizing Islam, no, you can't do that. Well, guess what? That's another way that they are pushing people in a certain direction. Because guess what? If you're the sort of person who wants to make a living on YouTube and wants YouTube to be your main source of income, well, you better not be criticizing Christianity, or you better not be criticizing Islam, because you get on the wrong side of things. And so there's, at every level of this, no matter what company you go to, they are massively biased. They're massively favoring Islam. They're massively favoring certain political views. And it's just insane to think of these as platforms anymore. They're indisputably publishers. As soon as the government clarifies Section 230, these companies either have to change what they're doing. They either have to change what they're doing and come up with actual rules and guidelines and stick to those rules and guidelines that they then apply fairly, or they're publishers, in which case they're gone. And so I look forward to someone stepping in and getting these companies on a leash, because they're out of control.
Amen. I want to add just a quick comment by someone, Drew Paget. You're asking about whether giving through Patreon is better than Super Chat. I tell you this, Super Chat, is something you can give during the show. It's up to you, of course. There's some people that like to do this. Patreon, of course, is the preferred method if you want to be committed to monthly. Not just to me, by the way, my channel, CIRA International YouTube, but also to my dear brother here, David Wood, which is Acts 17 Apologetics, and others like us, of course. So that decision is entirely up to you. Just wanted to make a distinction. David, where do we go from here? I mean, what do you think should happen? Not what might happen, what should really happen to curtail this and just put an end to this kind of dictatorship that is taking place without a doubt, watering down our efforts to bring about truth. There's a lot of Muslims, by the way, who are seekers, who are genuinely seekers. But if they cannot find a safe place like ours to come to and learn, then what should be done? I mean, I know we're hoping the government will do something about it, which is sad enough that they haven't done anything yet of substantial value. But the hope is that it might happen. You never know. But what do you perceive should happen?
Well, yeah, a couple things. Normally, I don't like the government getting involved in stuff. Normally, right? Normally, I want the government. All right, protect people, handle the stuff that you handle, education, stuff like that. As far as businesses, I usually don't like the government getting involved, because the government tends to screw up stuff, right? So I only want the government getting involved if people are really doing some messed up stuff, which these companies are doing. They're hiding behind their platform status in order to be publishers, and they should not be allowed to do that. So in this situation, I'm for the government stepping in. With that said, I don't think we should entirely count on the government, because I don't trust the government to do the right thing in these situations. In other words, the government could decide to deal with this and deal with it in a totally messed up way. And so I hope the government fixes this, because then, lives get a lot easier, right? Right now, every day I wake up, I wonder, is this the day my channel gets banned, right? And everything I've done for the last 10 years is taken down. Now, before someone asks, David, do you have your content backed up? Yes, I have most of my videos on a hard drive somewhere. But it's a concern. I've been focusing on YouTube for, more than a decade, at least in part of my life. And then over the last several years, I've been focusing this as like my main area, right? I wake up in the morning, it's what video am I going to make today? So I've just been, putting a lot of work into this for years. So, but every day I wake up, is this the day my channel goes bye-bye? So hope the government does something, but I don't think we can, necessarily count on them. What I would really hope for is for people to understand how much power we actually have here, right? I mean, the more biased they become, the more people they upset and offend, the more people become bothered by what these platforms are doing. The problem is that, people just aren't united in any significant way. If people on the internet, people on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, actually became united at some point and they rallied around some awesome person. To be clear, I'm not talking about Fadi. I'm not talking about me. I'm not talking about any of us. It would have to be someone with just massive appeal to tons of people. Someone ever said, you know what? We are totally sick of this. And me and 80 million other people who follow me are all going to leave this platform unless you stop with this nonsense and you actually start doing the right thing here, and you get some people on your trust and you only have people on your trust and safety teams who have a respect for people's speech, who have a respect for people's ability to share their views, even if they disagree with them. You only have people like that on your trust and safety teams. And if you don't, then me and my 80 million friends here are all leaving, and we're migrating to this other platform. And if something like that ever happened, these companies they absolutely have to respond, and they have to respect that, because if you keep banning and blocking people, and anytime you ban and block people, they go to an alternative platform. People generally don't do that now because you don't have anywhere near the reach on the alternative platform. So you'd rather deal with a messed up huge platform than a really good small platform. And so people stick with YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. But if, 50 million, 80 million, 100 million people ever just migrated to another platform, all of a sudden that platform then is huge. And so these platforms would have to react. They would have to say, okay, we get the point, because that would hurt their business massively. And if every time some idiot on the trust and safety team banned someone, they lost another 10,000 or another 100,000 users who went to another platform, that's just not good business. It's bad business. At the end of the day, these are all companies. At the end of the day, all these companies are there to make money. If their decisions about who to ban, always helps their competitors get bigger and stronger and makes their own platform decrease and diminishes their revenue, they would have to pay attention to that. As of right now, that's not happening. They can do this stuff without being hurt. So I'm hoping that eventually someone emerges who sort of functions as a rallying cry and says, hey, I'm really, really popular here. I've got 50 million subscribers and this and that. Let's all unite. And so you'd have that creator, whatever his platform is, and then a bunch of other creators, if they like that person and trust him, would all rally around him and say, you know what, I'm gonna tell my subscribers, my fans, the same thing. And you end up with like 100, 200, 300, 500 creators who then have, millions of followers all saying the same thing. Guys, you fix this stuff or we are gone. I think they have to listen to that. So basically, guys, it's the same in life. Our government leaders, they're in power because we put them there. So they should not be trying to control us. We control them through voting and things like that. The same thing with news programs, Fox, CNN. These are businesses. If they lose people's trust, people stop watching, they would go out of business. So they would have to respond if they actually started upsetting their viewers. Well, we've got these platforms and they're upsetting their users. If we ever become united in any significant way, we can tell them what they're going to do, and they have to listen or they lose money, and they don't want to do that.
Amen, brother. One last question, if you feel like you want to answer it, of course. I know you did a recent video about this apologetics umpire. Do you care to elaborate further on that?
Oh, yeah, that's awesome stuff. I will probably post, it won't be tomorrow, but I will probably post an update either Tuesday or Wednesday. But yeah, there are going to be a couple of updates. So talk to Jorge. We're having a website put together. We're having a forum built on that platform. So by the way, in case no one knows, in case people don't know what I'm talking about, I said that project one that we're going to be working on is I'm going to put out a series of 50 videos, one per week for 50 straight weeks. And the call was for people who speak other languages to translate the transcript of the video and then re-record the video in their own language and to post those on their own channel. So I'm going to post the video in English. Jorge's going to post the video in Spanish. You still planning on posting the video in Arabic?
That's my plan. And we're going to, of course, want to find out how we can do that, of course, effectively and following the schedule.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. So the plan is for people around the world to take the transcript, translate the video, and then post the video in their own language so that we end up with all of these videos in multiple languages. Now, I did not know if 5 people or 500 were going to respond to this. I had no idea, but the turnout was much bigger than what I had anticipated. Pretty much every European language, people said they're going to cover it. There are entire apologetic societies who said they're going to work on it together. In certain countries, like you'll have the Apologetic Society of such and such country and stuff like that. They're saying they'd work on a bunch of African languages, bunch of Asian languages, all of the languages that are relevant for where people actually have to deal with Islam. And sometimes it's like 10 or 15 people. I'm getting 10 or 15 responses from people who speak that language saying, yeah, we'll do it in this language. So, so one of the concerns now is that people can collaborate. In other words, if there are 10 people or 15 people who speak a certain language who want to do the translation for that language, it's good if they can work together. They don't have to work together, but some of them, if a couple of them can work on, translating, and then, they have a couple of people working on that so that they can, check each other's translation or help out or cover different parts of it or something like that. And then, someone might be able to help out with costs in case they need any equipment or something like that. So it's good if people in an area can kind of work together like that, but it's kind of hard to do on YouTube. You don't want to be sharing personal information or, contact details and stuff in the comment section of YouTube. So we're going to, building a website. We're going to have a forum there. It's going to be password protected. So you get into the forum. Now you can always have someone claim to be a Christian and get in there and then see it. We're not terribly concerned. You're not, giving out your home addresses and stuff like that. It's more for the sake of, you don't want bots and stuff picking up your email address and then you get flooded with a bunch of nonsense and so on. So we're going to have a forum there. We're also going to post some basic training videos on how to make a video. So I'll take you through like my video making process from beginning to end, how, recording, lighting, editing, all that stuff. Just go through the basics. Not going to be terribly detailed, but basically what you would need to do in order to make these videos. We'll have videos like that. And then once all of that is up and running and people have had a little time to collaborate, figure out their game plan, and people have at least know the basics about videography, because some people are experienced, some people have equipment, some people don't have experience and stuff. So we're going to try and make sure everyone is up to date on how to do all of that. And then once all of that is up and running, so this will probably be, this will almost certainly be next month, sometime next month when we launch the first video. So the first video will come out. And the plan is that me and Jorge and Fadi will have our videos up ahead of time. So I'll put out the notification and say, hey, everyone, we just posted the first video, and you'll go there and it'll have the video in English, Arabic, and Spanish. And then people basically have 1 week to translate the video, re-record the video, post the video on their own YouTube channel, and then send us the link. And then we'll include that. So it'll have English, Spanish, Arabic, and then whatever language someone sent it in. So let's say Farsi or something like that. Then there's the Farsi edition right there. And so what we're looking to do is make an entire course on Christian apologetics dealing with Islam and have that in 20, 30, 40 languages or something like that. And so that's going to be the project for the next year. But man, if we get that done, if we get this done, if we end up with an entire course in apologetics dealing with Islam, and we get that up and we have that up next year, Fadi, I have to say, this will be one of the biggest game changers in the history of apologetics. If all of a sudden people around the world in 30, 40, 50 different languages have a complete course on apologetics in their language, that's massive.
Absolutely. And hopefully you can also help people know how they can download the script itself to work on translating it. So I'm assuming you're going to talk about that probably in your instructions.
Yeah, in the update. So the update will be, I'll cover a lot of stuff, but basically it will be, once everything is ready, it's going to be go to the website, contact the website, send them your email address, contact them, tell them a little bit about yourself and so on. And then you'll be on the list. So you'll be on the list. So then, you can get in the forum, you'll have the password for the forum. And also you'll get notifications. So as soon as a video is posted, you'll get a notification. You'll get links to the videos that have been posted. You'll get the full transcript sent to you. And then all you have to do is you got the transcript right there. You can take 2 or 3 days to translate that transcript, and then another day or two to record, edit, all that stuff. Notice it's pretty cool because it's 1 video per week, right? It's hard. Sometimes I'll go weeks posting a video every day. That's kind of rough. 1 video a week is actually a good pace, especially for someone who's trying to build up a new YouTube channel. 1 video a week is a good pace. A couple days to translate, a couple days to record and edit, and then post it, and then you've got the video.
Wonderful, brother. I just want you to talk about it because I know how important that is, and definitely you got our back in. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I've been keeping track to see if there's any specific questions. I see a lot of comments, of course, and a lot of you are also praising the Lord for this aggressive and also ambitious project. Everything is doable, by the way, folks. It could be done. And this is one way, speaking of censorship, this is one way to counter that by making at least our voices, our messages get out there. At least people can still have access to it in their own language.
Oh, that was part of the intent. People try. It's funny. People have never caught on that the more they try to shut me down, like the more awesome ideas I come up with. Right. So people are trying to shut me down. I'm thinking, okay, if I get banned on YouTube, what can I do? Well, if we already have this kind of system in place for posting videos and then people are translating them, that doesn't have to be done on YouTube. Or if I'm posting the videos, I can post. It doesn't have to be posted on my channel if people are getting notifications. But if we can make entire series available in 30, 40 languages, YouTube can't stop that, man. They can't stop that, right? So try your worst. If we get a 50 video series covering all of the main central issues, we get all of those covered in languages around the world. What are these platforms going to do? It's too late. It's too late to stop that.
That's right. That's right. And hopefully you can instruct people even to download them and have them in their own servers so no one can access them in the future. Just like, recently, Muhammad Hijab cut a portion of his interview with Yasser Qadi, and it's too late, of course. Everybody downloaded that. So
yeah,
you can't do anything about it. Speaking of that, many people are asking me, are you planning on doing anything regarding that particular topic?
Yeah, actually on Friday, I'm going to have Jay Smith on there, and we're going to go through the entire deleted footage. So wonderful. That 30-minute, it's funny because I wasn't really paying attention to it. I saw Islam Critique's channel. He posted some clips from that where Yasser Qadi was admitting that there's this massive problem and that Muslims aren't aware of it. And that he called it holes in the narrative. The Muslim story about their history of their Quran. They said there are holes in the narrative, and so that's all I was paying attention to. But once everyone started saying, "Wait, he deleted this footage," now I'm like, "Wait, what? He did what?" Now I want to know, and that's called. I think that's the Streisand effect, right? The Streisand effect was once where I think what it was someone posted a picture of Barbara Streisand's home or something like that, and she flipped out and demanded they be taken down. But because she was flipping out, this drew much more attention to it, and then everyone was seeing where she lived and stuff. So, a few people would have seen it before she flipped out, but because she flipped out, then everyone saw it. I think that's what it refers to. People can correct me in the chat. I think that's what it's about. But it's this situation where, okay, you posted something and it's doing this much damage, but now that you tried this massive cover up, now you just drew everyone's attention to it, and now everyone's looking into this. And so Hijab, by deleting that footage, is calling more attention to it. So on Friday, I'm going to have Jay Smith live on my channel, 8:00 p.m. And we're going to watch the entire 30 minutes. I'm going to break it up. We're not just going to sit there for 30 minutes watching it, but we'll watch 1 to 2 minute clips of it, respond, and so on. We'll go through all of that and see why would they want to cover this up, and why is this the same pattern in Islam, right? You go back to Uthman. What does he do? He burns all the evidence. You get down to today, they're deleting footage. Why? Because what did Yasser Qadi say? He basically said, guys, at the scholarly level, there's all this stuff that completely contradicts what you believe, and you need to get ready for this because you're wrong. The narrative that you've been told is wrong, and you need to be aware of it. And notice that's too much for Muslims. Oh, he's destroying our faith by telling us the truth. We can't have that. Shut it down. Delete it. My goodness.
You can't handle the truth.
What is this religion? Oh, I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that. Now I have to make a video. Now I have to make a video of Yasser Qadhi with constant, you can't handle the truth in there.
Absolutely. And, you know, it was funny because we were having this panel discussion on my channel with Hatun and Jay.
I saw that.
When one of my followers noted that to me, and she said, listen, you know, he cut it to a 30-minute of the video. I told Jay, and I said, Jay, what are the odds he cut that exact portion? And it turned out that's exactly what he cut out. So it's just amazing. You cannot hide the truth, no matter what. Not these days, of course. It's too late for that. Well, brother, thank you so much. As always, we are so blessed. Thank you for making time for us. Hopefully, we'll do another one when your schedule allows. In fact, on Friday, I'll have Islam Critiqued with me. I'll have Jay on Tuesday to address issues related to other topics in terms of the Quranic manuscripts. And tomorrow, I'll have Sam Shamon. May God help us.
Oh, my goodness, that heretic.
And then we will go from there. So thank you, everyone. Thank you to those who gave. May the Lord bless you richly. Thank you for the moderators for an amazing work. Thank you, brother. And remember, you can go and subscribe to our dear brother's channel, YouTube channel, Act 17 Apologetics. Please consider giving, whether super chat during his live stream or become a Patreon patron. Thank you. God bless. And this is Al Fadi, over